Oh, what was that? Good morning. You're watching Evan's Performance and Racing. My name's Evan,
And my name's Nick with Hawks Cars.
and today, unfortunately, we're taking the head off the Integra. Now, the first step whenever you're doing something this in-depth is always to disconnect the battery. Mine's in my trunk, subtle flex. But once you've done that, it's really just a precaution. There's a lot of grounds and stuff on the motor. Like I said, really just a precaution. Now, if you want to check out the next first step, is to take the valve cover off, and that's in my previous video. But then after that, we're going to be taking the distributor off right there, and then draining all the coolant out of it. I'll get back to you after we do that. So we've just loosened that lower radiator hose, and just letting it drain out nice and slow. And while that drains, we're going to get that distributor off. And then once it's drained, we're going to take off the hoses to the thermostat, the hose to the head, the hose to the intake manifold. And after that, we got to deal with the timing cover.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. So all the coolant's drained and the distributor is off, as you can see. Make sure you're very careful with those teeth, and when you put them back in, you'll notice that the teeth are slightly off center, and that's how you know to put it back in the right way. I actually did misspeak. The thermostat hose does not have to come off, but the upper radiator hose going to the head, that does have to come off. You got to take the intake manifold off. Go ahead and we went ahead and disconnected all the sensors and the injectors, disconnected all the connectors off of it. I mean, the VTEC and everything, I unplugged that. But if we look around here, all you got to do is take this top timing cover off. I got to take the tensioner off the belt. Make sure you mark your cam gears and where they're at so you don't lose timing. And we're going to take the tensioner off, take the belt off. Went ahead and got the power steering pump disconnected. And then, yeah, that's how far we've gotten so far. Next, we're going to take the timing cover or the timing belt off, the manifolds off, and then I think we should be about ready to pull the cams, get to the head bolts, take the head bolts off, and take the head off. So there are a couple bolts that might slow you down, and I'm going to show you what they are. So from the driver's side of the car, near the timing cover, if you look underneath the motor mount, that shiny thing right there that my flashlight is pointing at, that one right there, that's your tensioner bolt to loosen the belt to get it off the cam gears. That one is a little difficult. And then secondly is these intake manifold bolts underneath the runners. If you look, I bet you can't even see it. I've got basically just an extension. That's basically the easiest way to get the one underneath runner 2 and runner 3. Runner 4 you can get from the passenger side. Runner 1 you can get from the passenger side. But 2 and 3 are literally just underneath it and in this mess right here. Oh, there's a good point of view. You can see it.
So in this clip, I don't even know really what I was saying, but what I was trying to say was that before lunch, we were able to completely prep the intake manifold for removal. That included the bracket that connects the intake manifold to the block. I was told that the bolt underneath the fourth intake runner was quote-unquote the most difficult bolt in the job, but I really beg to differ. Those intake manifold bracket bolts were extremely difficult for us, and the bolts underneath the runners really weren't. So really the rest of it is getting the coolant lines off, getting the fuel line off to the fuel rail, and getting the brake booster vacuum line disconnected. And then you should be able to shimmy that intake manifold off of the head studs.
So that should be that, and then the intake manifold come off. We're one step closer to getting this head off.
Still having fun.
Still having fun. So with the intake manifold now out, I didn't realize how many like coolant lines and evap lines and the vacuum lines were actually attached to that. But now that it's completely off, and we've got a much more boring looking engine bay. The headers are next. However, we don't quite have enough room. So just like a couple days ago when you have to very carefully take off the valve cover, well, I mean really everything has to be taken off carefully, but valve cover and cams now. Coming closer. So you have our intake cam and our exhaust cam. If you notice, our intake cam has actually a more aggressive lobe than our exhaust. That's why on these B-Series motors, when you hear VTEC kick in, it's less of a exhaust note and more of an intake note. You hear that, and that's actually why that happens, because that VTEC lobe is so much more aggressive than the exhaust. And once we take them out, we can compare them.
This is funny, I actually didn't realize that there was a piece of timing cover in between the camshaft and the cam gear while I tried to take them off. So in the next clip, we disconnect the cam gear from the camshaft.
Tell me when you're ready. Ready.
And just like that, the camshaft's out.
Underneath the cams, you got the head bolts. We're working on getting those out. And if you look where the cam meets the cam gear, the timing cover has like a little ring that rests around the cam. I checked the forums and everybody says that they just cut them out. Next up, we're going to work on these head bolts, trying to break them loose in a crisscross pattern. And then we're going to get that header off. The only reason we haven't yet is how close it is to the radiator. So hopefully once these head bolts are out, we'll be able to tilt the head forward and get those studs out of the header and have the head off. So I just looked it up. These head bolts are torqued to 60 foot-pounds from factory. But I'm having a little bit of trouble. So I figured I'd video it in case something goes wrong. I got my 14 millimeter and my long 3/8 ratchet. And now I'm gonna put the smack down on it. What was that?
That did not sound.
Loose on. Oh, 60 foot-pounds, my it's so tight. Oh my God. All right, I'm gonna do the rest in his zigzag pattern. I'll come back after. We got them all loose in a crisscross pattern. Now we're just gonna zap them out. Do you know if I'm allowed to mix up the head bolts or if I should remember where they go?
Not my car, so just mix them up.
Pulled out the head bolts, and these two look a little strange, almost like they haven't had any oil. I don't understand. I mean, I don't even know if it's supposed to get oil, but these ones all look like they've had oil, or at least they look, I don't even know how to say it. Like these ones look burnt almost. Now, out of curiosity, I actually did end up consulting the experts on this situation that we found, and it's actually perfectly fine. The head bolts, as you pull them out of the head, they can just gather oil, like the oil out of the head, and the ones that don't, it doesn't really mean anything. I'm Evan, you're watching Evans Performance and Racing, and we just pulled the head. So before we take a look at those valves, I can get this out of the way. Where'd that flashlight go? I don't know. I lost it. There it is. We're going to take a look at these pistons. So, you know, I'm really not seeing any major damage. There's a very light scuff, you know, underneath all the carbon. There's a lot of carbon buildup, I'll give it that. But there's really not too much damage. I'm not seeing very much. The pistons look pretty good, and honestly, I would say that's acceptable. Now we look at the heads. We remember last video we did a leak down test, and we noticed a large leak on the intake side. So intake's going to be, when I show it to you, intake valves are going to be on the bottom. You might want to pay attention to that. You ready? You getting a good look?
Yep.
All right. I'm going to set this back down. What'd I do for you? Oh my gosh, it's all over.
Oh, get that!
Alright, cut the video. Got it. Well, I got a new shirt and found a little bit of a better way to show you. So if you want to come in here with me, I mean, honestly, they look all right. I'm really kind of confused at this point because, you know, looking at these intake valves, which is this whole bottom row, the larger valves, I'm not seeing any obvious signs of, oh, I've got oil dripping on my shoe. Any obvious signs of, hey, I'm a bent valve. I'm not seeing anything like that. I mean, no, this is kind of confusing now because the motor was ticking, and I'm seeing a little bit of damage on the piston even as well, and I feel like that should translate to damage on the valves. And like I said, I'm just not seeing it. See a scuff on that exhaust valve. If you look right there, that white mark, I don't know what that is, but I'm seeing a little bit of scuffage. It also looks like much more carbon buildup in this piston than any of the other three if you look just at the head. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna go ahead and take this head apart and replace the retaining springs, the retainers, the valve. We might not need to replace the valve guides because they don't even, I mean, look bent. And then I'm going to replace the valves probably, just because I see that little bit of damage. Obviously, I'm going to actually have it assessed by a professional. I'm not a professional, I'm just an enthusiast. But yeah, so this is probably going to be the end of this video just because I'm not 100% positive on where to go from here. Just because, like I said, I'm not seeing a whole, like, obvious damage, you know? So you're watching Average Performance in Racing. My name's Evan, and thank you for following along on how to pull your head on a B-Series Honda. Nick, thank you.
Thank you.
Turn the camera. And a big thanks to Nick for helping me the whole way.
I did a lot.
A flashlight holding.
I did more than that.
Anyway, shout out your channel.
Hawks Cars first video. Who knows when? Hopefully once this video comes out.
Hopefully.